Hey guys, we're going to keep making our Pong 2.0 better and better. So today we're going to go over some bounciness, get our Pong token under control. We're going to make some lives left and tell our game when it can end. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about with bounciness. Here's our Pong coming in, our token anyway. Now you see how it can get really crazy really fast? Holy cow. All right, let's go ahead and fix that. So in here, we're going to go to our Pong attributes. Let's go into sprites and let's set the bounciness. Default setting for bounciness when you bring in the bounce is 1. We're not going to set it to 1. We're going to tell it that Pong bounciness is actually going to equal 0.5. Remember, you got to put a 0 in front of your decimals. If you don't, it doesn't like it. Let's go ahead and run it again. Okay, now you notice that our token is way more under control, but also is moving quite slowly. Not too fun of a game that slow. So let's increase it. Remember, 1 gives us the crazy, so let's go ahead and do a 0.8 and see how that does. Gonna go ahead and run that. We're doing pretty decent. Let's see if we can make it go crazy. Slamming it to the side. Moved a little faster, but it's kind of under control. Okay, it seems to be staying under control pretty decent. Getting a little slow every now and then, but yet it will pick up speed and give us a little bit of a variety, but not go uberly crazy. And that's what we want to prevent, is the uber craziness. So bring in a bounciness to 0.8. Now we're going to tell the game how to end. So we're going to have to do a lot of things. We want to go ahead and make a variable that tells it how many lives we have left. Click on the purple. You want the very first one, declaring a variable. You're announcing to the computer, hey, we have another variable, and I'm going to call it lives left. And to begin with, we're going to start with 5 lives. Don't worry about the yellow part. We'll get to it later. It'll take care of itself as we go. So here's our variable. We got to start creating all sorts of things that work around that. So let's start with some adding some ground in here. If we looked at our bottom of our thing, we have these edges that are automatically put in, and we don't have a way to say if it touches the bottom edge. Other programs have that, so we're going to trick the computer by adding in another sprite. So click on your sprites. Go down, grab yourself a comment, bring it in. Here's your Pong attributes. We created the platform. Right underneath there, I'm going to put create ground. Now I'm going to bring in the sprite. We're creating a sprite. We're kind of announcing, hey, we're going to create one, and its name is, and you're going to put it there. And this is the picture you're going to have it be. So I'm going to call it ground. I'm going to call the sprite ground. I'm going to go to animation and find some ground. I'm going to throw away the city one. We don't need that one anymore. That was just an example. Adding this in, I'm going to go to environment. I'm just going to grab some grass. And we're going to come back. And here's my stuff. And I'm going to go to create ground. And I'm going to tell it grass top. It's going to create it in the middle. I don't want it in the middle. Here, this is where my ground is. Yeah, that doesn't work. Okay, not in the right spot. So I'm going to create it at 200 is fine because that's in the middle for the X. But I want to do a 400 down here. I want that ground hugging the bottom of the screen. Okay, that's where I want it. Okay, now I'm going to bring in and set my height and my width. So I'm going to tell it what to do here. Height and width. Again, I'm going to do ground. May as well do ground here. My height, I've already played around with it and decided how I wanted it to be, is about 20, but I want it all the way across the bottom. So this should be my width, should go right up to almost 400 in there. Now let's take a look at my ground across the bottom. There it is. That's going to be my sprite that my token's going to collide with, and subtract 1 from my lives. And now I need to tell my Pong to collide with, inside the program itself, remember, inside the green one here, I need to tell my Pong to collide with target. Well, actually I need it to bounce off. That's what I need. Bring in your bounce off one. I'm going to call it Pong bounces off ground. So now Pong comes down, finds the ground, bounces off, but it doesn't subtract 1. In fact, we don't even have our lives left text up here. So we're going to jump down to, this is the one I've got show score under here for my text. You can have it named anything you want as long as you remember that it's your text stuff. I'm going to bring in 2 more pieces of text. So I'm going to go to drawing, come down here to text string, drop it in, and this is what I want it to say. I want it to say lives left. Inside of here I can put a space because it realizes that the quotation marks is around text. Not a big deal. Anywhere else it does not like spaces, but a space is all right there. I'm going to expand this by 2. I'm going to put 20 inside of here. And I already experimented with my X and where I'm placing this. I'm going to place my lives left at 100. Now I also have to bring in my variable. So I need another text string, and I'm going to wipe out my quotation marks here. Says every doesn't like it, don't worry about it. I'm going to name it my variable that I brought up here, lives left. Okay, so down in here I'm going to do lives left. Again, I've got to do the 2020. Over here, I've already chosen 160. Now watch across the top. We should have my score. We should have lives left over to the side. Here we go. There. Lives left and score. Lives left is not going to change any because we didn't do the math yet. So now let's do some math. New function. Doesn't matter which order down here you bring in the functions because we can always adjust that order when we bring the functions into the real program. So I'm going to add a function. I'm going to call it lives math. Now I need to tell it an if. If it's doing this, then do that. And if my sprite bounces off, where's my bounce? It's probably in here someplace. And I've probably just gone right past it. Oh, here it is. If Pong bounces off ground, we want to do a variable, but we're not declaring one at all, so we don't want the var at the beginning. We want that third one, and we're going to say lives left, and that's this variable here. We want to take one away. So go get math, do the subtracting one, and we're going to type lives left minus 1. Okay, let's run the program. Every time it bounces off the ground, it should be subtracting, and it's not. Oh, that's right. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to bring it into the program. So come down here and let's bring, what do we call it? There was Pong Math, and here is Lives Math. So we're going to call it Lives Math into our program. Run it again, and every time it touches the ground, it's going to subtract 1. It's going to be a controlled token, subtracting 3. And holy cow, it's getting a little slower. Let's see if we can move that up by bouncing it off of there. Here we go. 2, 1, 0. And nothing happens because we didn't tell it to happen yet. Okay. But good job, though. We've got several things happening in here. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and tell it what to do when it reaches 0. All right, guys. We brought in a new function this time. We added a new variable. We brought in a new ground sprite. So go ahead and keep on coding, and we're getting towards the end of Pong 2.0. Good job.